Okay, here we have a piecewise function. You can always tell a piecewise function because there's more than one equation for it. And the graph will consist of four pieces, which would be the individual pieces of each of these graphs. But this video is not dealing with the graph. We're going to look at that in another video of this same piecewise function. This video is going to look at how do you tell what the domain is of a piecewise function. Okay, well, it's really easy to tell what the domain is because what is the domain? Click on that. The domain is the set, and this is true for any domain, the set of x values that are allowed. So the x values that are allowed. Well, how can you tell what x values are allowed? You're told right here which x values are allowed. That is the domain. However, you've been told to give your answer in interval form. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So what I want to do is go piece by piece with these four different pieces, and let's see what would that look like on the interval, the number line. And so we're going to get the number line, and then when you get the complete number line, you're going to write it in interval form. This is how you do it. So what would that look like on the number line? X is less than or equal to -5. Well, on the number line, you would have -5 here, and then I'll do it in a different color. So I would include -5 because the symbol is important, and I'd want everything to the left of -5. So if X is on the blue part that you can see there, then that's the same as this statement here. So what's in blue is the same as your statement. X is less than or equal to -5. Okay. Now, what about this next part? X is between -5 and -3 inclusive. So what would that look like on the number line? Well, I would start at, and I would not include -5, but then I would want everything up to and including -3. So that's going to be filled in. Okay, and I might just do that in blue. Next, what would this look like on the number line? Well, I want everything between -2 and 3. From the symbol, -2 is included. From the symbol, 3 will not be included, but I want everything in between them. Okay, so that's what this part would look like. This piece would look like on the number line. And then finally, I use this formula if X is between 4 and 9, and it is allowed to be 4, but it is not allowed to be 9. Okay, now I'm getting much closer to give the answer in interval form. I'm going to take all four of these separate pieces and I'm going to put them together on one number line. Okay, so I need to have -5, -3, -2, +3, +4, and +9. Okay, so the first piece here is going to look like that. The second piece, if I overlay this on top, so let me just try and make that a little bit more solid. I'm going to start at and not include -5, so it's going to fit over this like a glove. There's not going to be any gap there, and then go up to include -3. All right, so when I put this piece, over that piece, there's no gap at -5. Okay. Now I come to the next piece, this part of the number line. It's between -2 and 3. Sorry, that should be a negative symbol there. That's a -2. So the next piece I'm going to start at and include -2, and then I go up to but do not include 3. And then the last piece is between 4 and 9. I include 4, but I do not include 9. Now, finally, we can give our answer in interval form. Go through from left to write this in interval form, everything you see in blue. So there is no left limit. So I'm coming in from -infinity, and positive or negative infinity, you always use a parentheses or a round bracket. So coming in from left to right, I'm coming in from -infinity. There is no gap at -5. That is smooth. There's no gap. And this first part, this first piece, ends at -3, and -3 is included. So I draw a square bracket there. Now notice there is a gap here. There's a gap between -3 and -2. I'm going to write that gap with a union symbol. Then I pick it up again at -2, and -2 is included. Then I have everything up until I get to 3, but 3 is not included. Then there's another gap. I'm going to have a union symbol. I pick it up at 4, and 4 is included. And then I'm solid until I get to the end here, which is 9, and 9 is not included. So in interval form, this is our answer. Now again, think about what the definition of domain was. The domain is the x values that are allowed. This is telling you which x values are allowed. If I look at the number line, anything in blue is allowed. Anything in blue is allowed. And so let me try and make this a bit more straight. Okay. And so I'm just trying to make my lines a little bit thicker. So any number that lives in blue is allowed. And so that's a perfectly correct presentation of what the domain is in that number line. But you were asked for interval form. And so the best way to write interval form, if you don't know, if you're not, confident in doing that, is to draw the number line and then read the number line off from left to right. And you draw a square bracket if it's contained, if the endpoint's contained, and you have a parenthesis if it's not contained. And positive or negative infinity, always use open parentheses. If you were writing this in WebWork, there's no symbol on your keyboard for negative infinity, so you would do -inf. So if this was a WebWork assignment, I don't know if your university uses WebWork, but where I teach they do. This is what you would write. This is what you would type in for your answers. Sometimes they'll want you to write the entire word. Depends on what the instructions are. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. All right, so I'm going to stop the video there, and hopefully that's enough for you to get the idea.